Well, hello, hello, hello. Let me turn this video off. For some reason, it didn't stop. There we go. That was stupid. Okay, something's happening. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. All right, Greg, let's just start.
All right.
We
Hey,
got,
what did anything, any substance happen today?
hang on a second. Hang on a second. Oh, my hell. All right, you there?
I'm here.
I had to close down a bunch of windows. Welcome, everybody. I know it's late, and I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate you sticking through this first minute where I had technical difficulties. I have like 7 people waiting to join us in this show tonight. So I think there might be lag issues. This is the first time I've tried to do this many people. So we'll have to see how it goes. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name's Nathan Bomber Brown. I'm Big 12 Mafia and the Holy Rivals. And I am all BYU and Big 12. And long ago, I met up with sort of the godfather of the Big 12, which is Greg Swaim. And Greg, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't do it that long or on video. Actually, I'm doing your viewers a favor by doing audio only, but because I've got a face for radio, as we all know. But man, what a day! What a day! What a day!
Absolutely. And I just want to call out, I've got a first new member. Lemon Lime came over with me. I was just on Jason Watkins' show, and he came in and immediately became a member. I really appreciate you being here, Lemon Lime. Thanks
Nice.
so much for being a subscriber. Let me call out a few people, and then I'm going to turn the time over to you, Greg. So give me 1 second. I want to call out, let's see, holy God, so many people. Blake Phillips, Robert Franz, BR is a subscriber, Earl Card, Kaufman is a subscriber. Kaufman is a subscriber. We got so many subscribers. Earl's here. Let's see if there's anybody else. Boy, Devil Frog, who's a partner of mine. John Coy's new. Thanks for being here, John. Jeremy Callahan, sorry. And that's it. I mean, seriously, we're over 100 comments already, Greg. Okay, you tell me, when you woke up this morning, did you feel like this was the day I was going to get vindicated?
No, actually, I thought it would be in a couple of days, like maybe Monday or Tuesday, because I knew there were going to be some meetings this week, and there were some meetings yesterday. You probably know this. Oregon State met yesterday, actually.
Right.
That's why they're being mentioned right now as the 4th team getting in after the 2 Arizona schools and Colorado, obviously. But that's the surprise team people are talking about. Some people think it's Washington. I don't think so. Although, if the Big Ten comes out tomorrow, and I guess they already said it today, but I haven't seen it, says we are definitely not taking any teams this year, then I think Washington and Oregon might be sweating a little bit.
So before we get going and we start doing receipts and all that fun stuff, I really want to call out just the organization and so many people that have helped me build these shows up. My partner, the Wild Ute, he's hopefully going to be joining us. So I'm going to get some of that Utah skin in the game. And then everybody else that is going to be on this show today, I count them all as partners, and I really appreciate their contributions. All right, Greg, I'll give you 5 minutes, free air, clear your mind, and try to get all your receipts out at one time. Can you do that?
Not in 5 days. I'm not as nice as you or Greg or Wild Ute or anybody. I had to go through and pick about the last 4 or 5 months, which I got these really mean tweets. I didn't put any of the ones that were just, questioning me. There are some people who like to get personal and things like that. And I've been accused of that myself, so I'm not perfect. But I just had to do my little happy dance today and go ahead and retweet all those so folks could see them, And the funny thing about it was, out of about 60 of them, I think maybe you saw some of them, about 10 of them already have basically DM'd me and said, hey, you were right. Congrats. I'm eating crow on this. And they followed me. So, hey, I give it up to them because it's not always easy to do. And I think 9 of them were Pac-12 fans. There's a couple of Utah fans who are probably now worried about, I'll be interested to see what Wild Ute says. because I don't like Utah. You know that, but I like
Right.
Wild Ute, and I like some of the Utah fans, and I feel bad for them because I think they're getting ready to get locked out.
So yeah, and let's talk about that live. First of all, I want to recognize Coup Connect is the NIL that I support for BYU. That QR code up in the corner, scan that with your phone, and at least sign up for $10 a month. Everybody can afford that, and it really helps BYU keep their good student athletes around. NIL's for real; it's not going away, and if BYU does not compete, they're going to get left behind. All right, so let's talk about the schools that you think right now are on tenterhooks for the
Well,
Pac-12.
well, obviously Colorado's in, Arizona's in, which means Arizona State's in. Arizona State basically said, whatever Arizona does, we're with them. Okay, they have the same board of regents. They've got an emergency meeting scheduled as well. As far as that goes, I think there's a wild card out there, and it could be if I said it's Oregon State right now, I could be right, but I could be wrong in about 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
I do.
Like Washington or Oregon, if they were to get hold of Yormark tonight and said, what do we got to do to be the fourth team? Because I know you're not taking more than four.
Right.
Maybe he would. Maybe it takes six. I don't know. But I really don't want to take more than four because then you get, like a third of your conference from one other group. You know what I mean? They get a little bit of power. I don't want anybody to really have more than their one vote. I don't want them to have any kind of ability to make somebody shift their votes, things like that. So
Right.
I think they'll only take four. I think we know three of them. I would imagine tonight in Corvallis, Oregon, and Eugene, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, possibly even Salt Lake City, there's some wringing of hands. Go, what? We didn't see this coming. I don't know how they didn't see it coming, but apparently some of them didn't.
What's funny to me is they've had a year to prepare for Armageddon.
Well, yeah. I
And
mean,
that's the part I don't understand. Why are they
what,
acting like, what's this realignment stuff? What are you guys even talking about?
it, it,
We're so united. We've been in a bubble. We don't understand why our world is disappearing. That's the part I can't get. It's like self-delusion for a lot of these people.
well, it's like this. Some guy brought it up the other day on the radio stuff. He said, if my wife, if I heard rumors more than one over a long period of time that my wife was cheating on me, I would have some contingency plans.
Right.
Well, it's not like anybody from the Big or Pac-12 did not know this was coming.
Right.
They had to know some stuff was going on. There was way too much smoke. If I wake up in the middle of the night and my house is filled with smoke, I'm probably going to react to it in some way, shape, or form. They never did.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I'm going to get a super chat in here from Sergeant Pickles, who's also one of my subscribers. Before I do that, I just want to recognize all the subscribers that are in our chat right now. Thank you so much for being here. It doesn't cost a ton to be a subscriber, and I try to get as many of your comments in as possible. And then super chats. If you're here for the first time and you want to be heard, you're gonna have to leave me a super chat because I probably won't get just general chats tonight. I try to, but sometimes it's hard. So if you want your comment to come out, please do it in a super chat. All right, really quick, let me dive into this board meeting and then we'll. Oh, by the way, Sergeant Pickle says, "Hey, Swaim, G Swaim is fair. You had me on this one."
Well, hey, Sergeant Pickles takes a big man to admit when he's wrong.
Right.
I'm rarely able to do that. Fortunately, I'm not wrong very often. But yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So really quick, we'll recognize this special board meeting. I brought it up just so everybody can see. This is the basic pat on the head for Colorado to join the Big 12. This happens tomorrow. And oh, by the way, it's going to be televised live. So
correct.
If you want to watch it, you can watch the end of the Pac-12 tomorrow afternoon at 3:00 Mountain. Okay, I'm going to take this thing out and I'm going to bring in a guy who is extremely frustrated tonight. All right, Ute, just go, brother.
This is a terrible day.
Dude, I feel for you. I've been thinking about you all afternoon.
Yeah. You guys, I'm really frustrated with a lot of things here, but maybe the biggest frustration I have as a Ute fan is still the seemingly lack of awareness around what's going on right now. We've been telling people for months and months, this could be happening and everything else, and kind of been lambasted out in Ute land for the ideas that anyone could leave, right? I mean, nobody was buying that at all. We've been talking about it for months. And now that it's here, CU's leaving, and in Ute land, folks still want to act like it's not a big deal. Like that CU is not a big deal. We just backfill San Diego State. The house is freaking on fire, guys. The house is on fire. The PAC is on fire. We need to realize that, acknowledge that as the first step so we can fix this thing if it's fixable. But you have to acknowledge the problem before you can fix it. You can't just bury your dang head in the sand. And I'm tired of it.
What was your first reaction when you saw the news about CU this afternoon?
I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, we did a sturdiness analysis on Holy Rivals last week, and it made sense that CU might jump, right? The Pac-12 hasn't been great to the Buffs. Their programs have gone down, their athletic programs, their academics have gone down in the rankings. It made perfect sense why they'd jump over to the Big 12. Geographically, they're fit too. So I'm not surprised at all. I'm just disappointed in the Pac land with our Ute fans, just to wake up about the reality and how severe this is. Because I feel like a lot of folks don't really realize that, and they think this is an easy fix right now. It's just not.
Greg,
so I feel pretty good.
Go ahead, and I know you wanted to talk to Ute.
Yeah, I just feel real bad for you and the handful of Ute fans that follow me on Twitter that are very nice and wish they would go to the Big 12, but I guess they use the term arrogance of some fans, they're too smart for us, we're trailer park trash, or whatever. I think that got to your mark too, because it would appear from today in all the meetings that are coming out and things like that, emergency meetings in reaction to Colorado, would it appear to you guys, or am I just maybe thinking too much into it, that Utah's not even being mentioned as the wild card or anything like that? Right. I think Utah's been shut out, but I'm not sure they shut themselves out too, because do they have an emergency meeting planned? I don't know.
No, not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen anywhere where Utah.
We should have seen this coming last week at Pac-12 Media Days. If you weren't paying attention and you weren't watching our shows, me and you have been saying for a while, Utah was the only school that stood out at Pac-12 Media Day. Can you bring up one other interview besides Robbins at University of Arizona that meant anything at Pac-12 Media Days? If everybody just takes a second, takes a deep breath, looks back at the messaging coming out of there, it was all Utah. It wasn't Washington, Oregon. It wasn't Oregon State. It wasn't Stanford. It wasn't Cal. All these schools that are desperate for a solution, Utah was the only one. It's like if the Pac-12 would not exist today, if Utah had made a decision a long time ago to be selfish and already had moved, I guarantee that's what would have happened.
Well, if I was to rank teams right now that are going in the four that are going into probably the Big 12 out of the 10, there's only 3 that I would eliminate right off the bat, and that would be obviously the 2 folks out in California, Cal and Stanford. But unfortunately, Utah probably number 8 right now. I don't think they're anywhere in the picture, but I don't think they want to be in the picture. Right. So at that point, you probably have to blame your president.
I'm not sure where Utah wants to be anymore. This has to be a wake-up call. Like, what's the game plan for the Utes? Is it really to make a push to get into the Big Ten by winning a watered-down PAC for many years? I've heard that a lot. I don't know if that's –
well, they're not even going to be – guys, they're not even going to be eligible for anything if these numbers – they lose these teams, right?
Yeah, it's going to be horrible.
I mean, if they lose 4 to the Big 12, that leaves them with 6.
Right.
And I really think that's when the Big 10 goes, well, you know what? We're not the bad guys anymore. We waited around for the Big 12 to be the bad guys. Now let's go ahead and take Oregon and Washington, because they didn't see this coming either. And that's why they've been saying we're going to wait a while.
So, Greg, this is why I brought on Moen Vision. I'm not sure if you guys have met, but he's been one of our key contributors.
Yeah, no, he's great. I've seen him a lot on your show and others.
Awesome. I hope he's not on the phone. Moen, are you there?
No,
There
I'm
he
here.
is.
I'm
There
here.
you go.
I'm here for
So-
now, but if the phone rings, I got to take it.
I understand. You can tell Greg to stay on hold. All right, here we go. So you've heard Ute and his frustrations. Give him some hope, would you?
Come on, Mo.
Look, it's going to be rough. I don't, and I've tried to explain this to people. There isn't a seat for anybody at the table right now until Notre Dame makes some kind of decision with their NBC deal. The presidents don't want to move until Notre Dame 100% closes that door. Until that deal is signed with NBC, the door's open.
But would you guys agree too, though? I mean, if just four, I mean, if the Big Ten takes nobody, but the Big 12 takes four, that leaves you with six. That you don't have the autonomous bid anymore. You don't have any of that stuff.
They will, and they could lose it in 26. They'd have it until the new negotiation. Right. Yeah, as long as they reconstitute, they pick up San Diego State, SMU, Tulane, Colorado State. There'll still be a conference, but in 2026, the game is going to turn over. We heard Brett Yormark say that on Monday. The world is going to be a different universe for that 2026 negotiation.
And in 2026, the Big Ten's going to be different too. We're going to there might be seats at the table in 2026. We just don't have them right now.
Right.
So, Greg, you haven't heard any steam on the Utes going to the Big 12 at all?
Zero. Matter of fact, they doubled down apparently and came back and said on a local radio station day they have no desire to be in the Big 12.
Really?
I don't know. I got that from a Ute fan. He was more upset than you are.
I'm going to get a couple super chats in here since there's a pause. If you're new to the show and we've got over 200 people here, me and you have been building this, but this is a fantastic number tonight. It's all because they're followers of Greg. I know that. Please subscribe, turn on your notifications, give us a comment and suggestion. We try to reply to those, and definitely think about subscribing. Hit the join button and you can see the different levels of subscription, or you can just do a super chat like Lemon Lime's done here. Lemon Lime is a new subscriber tonight, by the way. He says we were talking about Oklahoma. I'm going to divert for just a second because I was talking about Oklahoma coming to BYU and possibly losing, and here his reply is OU is going to make a clean sweep. Be ready. So Oklahoma is going to run the table according to Lemon Lime. And then let me get in one more here from Just a Rowdy Dude, who is a fantastic contributor. He says, no way Big Ten won't offer Oregon and Washington. If Big 12 takes 4 teams, what Phil Knight wants, Phil Knight gets. I predict Oregon State to the Big 12. All right, Moen, what do you say to that?
Well, Phil Knight's not going to bully the presidents of the Big Ten.
Right.
I don't care how much money he has.
Right.
You know, the only one who's going to bully the presidents of the Big Ten is Notre Dame. And I will let you know that the presidents, the athletic departments, there have been phone calls going on since this broke. It was late night in the offices. So I think they're trying to calm the waters as much as they can because of everything that's going on. I'm sure Utah, Washington, Oregon have all been on the phone with their athletic departments. I know that this mention of, and Greg mentioned it on his show, that Washington might be the mystery candidate that's joining the Big 12. I don't believe that's realistic. No. I believe that might be Washington putting that out there to try and force the Big Ten's hand. But there's just not a seat there yet. I do think that Washington, Oregon, and Utah would still be Big Ten candidates, but until we can get this Notre Dame thing, we don't really have any leverage on them to force that decision. So I don't see the Big Ten presidents coming in and taking Oregon and Washington and Cal and Stanford and all these teams. They don't have the votes right now.
So Mon, are they going to backfill? Is that the game plan? Is the PAC going to backfill with whoever remains?
I think they can. I think they can. If it depends on who. I mean, let's say the 4 that go are Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Oregon State. That Brett Yormark wants that Pacific time zone. I think there's still enough value there they can backfill, but they're going to take a very bad TV deal you're just not going to get a very good TV deal simply because of the perception. But if they can take a TV deal they can get out of relatively easily in 2026, I think that's what will happen.
So let me interject here really quick. I'm going to introduce you guys to Jake Brandon. He actually runs Coup Connect, the NIL for BYU. And Jake has a little esteem that I think can you repeat what you told me, Jake?
Yeah, man. So my phone's been blowing up all day just with the with the news about Colorado, and started out as kind of like a little bit of smoke, and then now it's like, oh, it's a 98%, and now it's all done. So I've been texting some people who definitely know what's going on, and I asked them, you think we get Arizona State? They said yes, most likely. I said, do you think we get Utah? And this person said, as of right now, Utah does not have an invite to the Big 12. And I mean, that could change tomorrow, right? That could change tomorrow morning. But he's saying, as if a few hours ago when I was on the phone with him, he says Utah does not have an invite to the Pac-12 or to the Big 12. They were not as pursuant of the idea of leaving the Pac as other schools were. And because of that, they're pretty far down on the list. And so when I asked, is Utah going? He's like, I don't really see how they can. They don't have an invite right now.
So who has an invite? Yeah, who has the invites?
According to this guy, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State have all been in like multiple discussions, showed a lot of interest, asked a lot of questions, doing their due diligence, and Utah hasn't. And so that, according to this guy, that's what he was saying.
I have a hard time seeing Utah not going to the Big 12 if Arizona and Arizona State go. I really think the Utes get in. They just bring too much value, guys. Utah's a good brand, brings the rivalry. Look at all the Twitter engagement. Look at all these shows that we're talking. I mean, Utah fans show up. They're going to want Utah. If Utah wants in the Big 12, I'm pretty confident that Utah is going to be able to get it. I know that you guys don't agree with that. I still see it that way. If Utah wants it now,
I don't think that we're saying they don't want them in. I do, right? There are people that want to be in the mix, as it were, but that we're just. And I think Jake again. For weeks now, I'm defaulting to common sense. What's the most common sense answer here? Utah has an amazing value, but if they think they are Stanford on the Wasatch Front, they simply can't turn the page. And I think that's what we're hearing now. Everything lines up. It says that Utah hasn't really done anything but continue to ride and die with the Pac-12.
Like when I was talking to some guys, this is months ago. I want to say this was in April or May. I was talking to some guys, and they were saying that, Colorado, Arizona State, and some other schools had conversations and had multiple conversations, and that Utah's stance was kind of like, hey, we don't think it's a great academic fit for us. Even if we were interested, we don't want to pull a Colorado when they left the Big 12 and be the only people to jump first or jump early. We think there's a strong likelihood they stay together. And so even back in like April and May, what was coming out of the Utah guys who are, around the program was that they were Pac-12. Like they weren't really interested in hearing more about what the Big 12 had to say. And I think that other schools who are kind of exploring their options more and really trying to vet the deal and continue conversations and keep them ongoing are now kind of seeing the dividends from doing that.
Do you guys have any questions for Jake? Jake, why don't you tell us kind of what Coup Connect is? That's why you're here. And then the second piece is give us insight of what's going on at BYU right now in relation to what all this conversation is in realignment.
Yeah, so Coup Connect, we started before the word collective was even a thing. I think if you look at our Twitter bio still, it says we are an NIL company because collectives weren't even a thing. So we've been doing NIL work since early 2021. Became a company, a full LLC in November of 2021. We've done, I don't know, it's got to be close to 1,000 NIL deals now with BYU athletes. Tens of thousands of dollars have gone to BYU athletes through us. And we're just here to kind of strengthen the program, help guys out as a resource. We do get money from some sponsors. We have some amazing sponsors, Chubby's, Carrick Home Design. I don't want to forget anybody. But a lot of really Pacific Horizon Credit Union, a lot of awesome sponsors, but probably 75 to 80% of our money comes from fan subscribers who use, like Nathan's QR code in the top right or whatever, and become a subscriber. They get access to insider reports. And Nathan, you could tell them, like, our sources are pretty good, and we have a pretty good track record of breaking info before anyone else, sometimes months before anyone else. So I feel like as a fan, you get your value there. You also feel good that the vast majority, like 90% or more of your money, is going to the pockets of players to help strengthen the program there. They create content for that money, right? We don't just hand out money. They give insider reports. Fall camp starts next week. Our subscribers are going to get a report every single day from fall camp telling fans what's going on at camp. Is offense winning? Is defense winning? Who's looking good? Who's scoring touchdowns? What's happening in camp. For $9 a month, it's a ton of value, and it supports the program. Now, to answer your second question, what's BYU going on with this right now? I'm hearing more stuff from my BYU sources about Utah today. That's the talk today, is about Utah and the situation there. And I'm not really hearing much about BYU or concerns with BYU. I think BYU as an administration would go to bat for Utah and, do their best to, help them out and stake their reputation on Utah and the kind of department they've run and things like that, because they've done that in the past, right? But that's all just me. I'm not hearing anything from that. Every reporter I've talked to today, every person in the media I've talked to today, they're all talking about Utah, Colorado, Arizona. Those are the three schools people are talking about today: Utah, Colorado, and Arizona. So
I think that's crazy. Sorry, Mullen or Wild Ute, do you guys have any questions for Jake before I let him go?
No, Jake, that's great info. Honestly, thank you very much. I hope that the perspective changes, and I hope that your Mark's on the phone with Mark Harlan right now. And so there's that offer coming in soon if it's not in. If that's correct news, I'm hoping that the Utes explore all options, and the Big 12 is a great option. Please listen to me, Mark Harlan, please. So thank you, Jake.
I appreciate it. Mullen, do you have any questions for Jake?
No, Jake, but it's great to see in-state schools stick together. It is rivalries on the field, and then off the field, that's where the rivalry should end.
Well, thanks, Jake. I appreciate your time. I really appreciate you being here, and keep that info coming to me because I like to break that news.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you later. All right.
Hey, Bomber, I'm going to drop two.
Do you? Okay. All right. Hang on. Two. I think I had one. Can we get one question from Immaculate? Immaculate had a question for you.
Yeah.
Immaculate, you there? Hit your mute button if you're there.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't let him go just yet.
Well, hurry up. You got to talk fast.
All right. You, real quick, I got a blueprint coming out.
Mood too, just a heads up.
I got a blueprint coming out. I'm not going to break too much into it, but Utah is on it. And
Utah's on what?
They're on the blue. They have a place in the future, and it's not in the Big 12, and it's not in the PAC.
There you go.
And that's in the Big 10?
But you will have to make a pretty large sacrifice.
We'll come in for free, Immaculate.
Well, it ain't going to be free. That's the sacrifice. It's going to be there's going to be a long-term sacrifice that they're going to have to accept. But
what's the sacrifice?
Travel.
Oh, that's no big deal.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing either, Immaculate.
It'll be costly, but I think you guys will accept it.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be great if there are these options out there right now. It's real uncertain. So it's really uncomfortable for a Ute fan right now.
There's an open spot within that plan, and Utah can definitely fill it, and they do provide some things that are needed. And but it's some of the other schools that are going from the same area, it's going to look like to many that they have a better situation, but I don't think Utah folks will care. I think they'll gladly take it.
Yes.
We'll see.
So
when Immaculate is the new commissioner for one of these conferences, we'll know where Utah is going. All right. Do you want to say anything else, Ute?
No. Go Utes, and I hope it all turns out well.
Oh, go ahead, Moen.
I'm going to send you a DM real quick, Ute. Just I'll just send it to you in a DM.
Okay, sounds good. Take care, guys.
All right,
You
take
better
care.
copy me, Moen. I want to know what you're saying. All right, I'm gonna bring in Jeff Fuller. So Jeff, BYU, you've been there, done that. We've seen this all together. Where does BYU look forward?
I mean, it's a good day for BYU. Just having a travel partner, bridging the gap geographically to the Big 12. It's a bigger day for the Big 12 in general. Just showing not just stability, but showing growth and strength. You talk about the race to be the third best conference. This is a big step towards that. Yes, the ACC has some massive brands, but they also have a lot of weakness at the bottom, and they're not cohesive. They're not together. But yeah, big day for the Big 12 as BYU fans. We shouldn't dance on the grave of anyone, but
Right.
after being told for decades by the PAC that we love having your fans come to the games in our stadiums. We love scheduling you guys, always date you, never marry you. And then not only that, but marry our younger sister who honestly wasn't as accomplished or pretty, that had a sort of, they were the 20-year-old girl that was coming into her good looks, but didn't, it was just hard to watch through the decades as BYU had earned a lot of earned a lot on the field as a team, as a fan base, and just to not have that ever being recognized of being into the power club. And I'm grateful to the Big 12 for taking a chance on us. I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship with all the new ads. And I just think having BYU there made it, more likely and more acceptable for Colorado to go. They're not the geographic outlier anymore, which they are in the Pac-12.
Right.
They sort of fill a gap, and it's a lot better on their travel. So
very good. Do you have any questions for Moen or Immaculate? I think Moen's there. Jeff?
Yeah. I guess I'm interested. It's funny seeing the juxtaposition of Wild Ute, who is a great Ute fan. That's always struck me as an oxymoron, saying those terms together. But he is a good guy, and I think he has legitimate, solid takes and sees things for where they are. There's so many from that fan base that are sort of the Nova Riche, the new money that think they're Alabama on the football field and Stanford in the classroom. And that's exaggerating. Maybe I'm kicking down where I shouldn't. But it's interesting to see the juxtaposition of his sort of I don't know if it's anger, fear.
It's all of those things.
Emotions
it's all of
going
those
in
things.
there. And wondering, he's like, hey, we got to get to the Big 12, and then Immaculate saying, oh no, don't worry, the Big 10's about to pick you up. I'm interested, Immaculate, where if that's just part of your sort of what you think is a good idea, or if you have any actual smoke on that, any sources on that, or if it just seems to fit what the Big 10 is looking for. So
Immaculate, let's keep these answers a little short, okay? We got a lot of people watching.
But me go on long? No.
Yeah, I need everybody for now on to be a little bit shorter.
I am not a source guy. I don't call out sources.
Right.
We have connections within, and things tend to come around. I am a math guy. I have come to my decisions. I've been following this for a couple of decades. Just been following things. Have been wrong plenty, but what I think is what is actually going on is largely just due to math, and then things that these conferences have wanted for years, which aren't even really in the nomenclature now. So no, what I'm bringing up is not from someone's not calling me and saying, hey, go on this show and say this. It's an overall plan that we're actually going to be releasing here shortly. And that's what it's from, though. It's not from anyone in particular telling me.
All right, Jeff, do you have a question for Moen? Because Moen thinks Utah could go to the Big Ten.
To the Big 10 or Big 12?
Big Ten.
Oh, I thought that was Immaculate who said that.
No, Immaculate has a.
Both of
Matt,
us.
we got a whole presentation
Both.
we're putting together.
Okay.
Moen actually
Yeah.
thinks they are going to go.
Yeah, I agree that they fit the profile of being, the academic flagship, university in the state. I think they have some other, their athletic department has been surging aside from men's basketball. So I see where there's some interest there. I just don't think they're anywhere, when you're talking about what the Big Ten has always liked, they've liked big markets. And Salt Lake's not a huge market. I think it's 29th, and it's split evenly with BYU. If you look at the actual, the numbers there and such within just the Utah market, it's split. So
Hey, Jeff, I got to cut you off here. I just got something that was on Twitter. I apologize, but this is breaking news. Actually, let me bring this up and share it with everyone. Pete Thamel is the source that the Big 12 presidents and chancellors voted unanimously Wednesday night to accept Colorado as the newest member of the Big 12.
That is big news.
That is breaking news here on Big
shocking.
12 Mafia Show.
Yeah, not shocking at all. It's one of those things where you don't take the vote unless they've told you verbally that they want to come, and then you get that approval, and then you say, it's just formalities at this point. If that's where it is, I think that means it's absolutely a done deal. I don't think they leak that to Thamel. That's what happened if they didn't know that Colorado was going to accept that.
All right, Moen. So really quick, what do you think about Utah?
Right,
Sell it.
Yeah, just really quick. Travel partners for USC, UCLA. You're going to have to get at least 5 on the West Coast, I think. In my version of the A3, you need 6. I think if Arizona State follows Arizona, that drops one candidate out. That could leave California and Utah both a chance to sneak in. But I think the Big Ten presidents, Utah has some fans within the Big Ten presidents that would possibly get Utah in. I understand what Jeff's saying about the market. It's not always about the market with the Big Ten. I mean, there's clearly some not big market teams in, Iowa. No offense, Immaculate, but Iowa's not necessarily burning down the
But that's why we
markets.
love it.
But name the markets that the Big Ten has added, though. I mean, you're talking about sort of charter members.
The only new ones are Maryland and Rutgers. Nebraska,
USC, UCLA.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Nebraska wasn't a huge market. It was a big brand.
That's right.
It's a blue blood.
I just think it's too early for Utah, though, Moen. I still think they need some time.
I still think what we're going to have is the television partners really want Oregon, and the presidents have been really against Oregon. I still think you're going to have to get a compromise candidate in there where they're going to have to give them someone to take Oregon. So
let me ask Jason Watkins, who I've added. I'm sorry, Jason, I couldn't get you in with Wild Ute. We will get that set up because I know you want to talk. So you've heard what Jeff said about the Ute candidacy. You heard the frustration that Wild Ute showed, which, by the way, is real. I know him personally, like in real life, and that is a big deal. And then you heard Moen and Immaculate basically saying, big picture, they think that Utah could possibly make that jump. You are at Oklahoma. You have no axe to grind. You're already in the SEC. What do you think about all this?
Right. And I think there's no way. I think that there's at least 10 other schools that they would go after first. And I don't care if Utah made the next 5 freaking CFPs. It's not going to happen. The one place that, and you know what, something that you said on the last time I was on your show was that there is more of a culture issue than what a lot of people wanted to talk about. I think he's right. I think he is right. And I think, we've been kind of short-sighted in that is that, look, the difference is that they do not fit the culture of the Big Ten at all. We talked about this before. BYU is considered the religious school. I know that. But there's a lot of religious folks that go to Utah as well. I happen to know that as well. And I know that that's the way it is. That will never fit that program. It'll never fit. And the AAU has so little to do with anything. I know that they want to, I mean, you need AAU membership to be considered, but that's just not going to be a big thing. And I just can't imagine it even coming to happen. The problem is that that you're starting to hear now. I heard, which one of you guys was it that was saying that the Big 12 wants nothing to do with Utah? I warned about this and worried about this, that all of this talk was a possibility. And I've been thinking that was an issue. Look, I think it's terrible. And because I think it is bad for the conference itself. I hope that maybe that's incorrect, because I think that Utah is a good ad for the conference, not just for BYU, but for Colorado as well. So, but to me, I really feel like the only place that you really fit in culturally is the Big 12. Either that or back to the Mountain West. So to me, I don't see that would ever happen. It's not that I want one thing or the other to happen. I could care less. I don't have an axe to grind. What I would tell you is the axes to grind right now are coming from the Big 12 conference that are sick and tired of being called truck stop conference, flyover conference, and stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, I'm going to let you go, but I want to give you a chance to say no, please. I cut you off when I wanted to make that announcement, so I apologize about that. Is there anything else you want to share before you go?
Not really. I just it's a big day. I'm glad that you shared that breaking news. That to me that solidifies it all. And great show. Love being a part of it. And go Cougs. And love the Big 12. Let's go.
All right, thanks, Jeff. I really, really appreciate it. We'll see you later.
All right, see you.
All right, so this comment from, do you have to go, Jason? Sorry,
no,
you put your hand up.
No, I'm here. No,
this
I'm
Sergeant Pickles thing, I think, is a big deal. And I know that this has been talked about, and Moen and Immaculate have both spoken about it. UW and Stanford allure Notre Dame, and we know Notre Dame's in the middle of negotiations. Could this possibly bring them out of their shell? Anyone?
No, but I would bring up, if we're worried about Utah being a religious school or having religious fanatics, what about Notre Dame, the largest private Catholic?
Of course.
That's why they're not in the Big 10 now.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, yet. That's why they're still the number one target. That's why they've been invited 4 times, I believe. 4 times they've been invited to the Big Ten.
They also have a huge audience, though. In comparison, their audience is.
It's still. I don't think you can eliminate. You can't eliminate a candidate because of the religious constituency they have.
That's not the only reason I did.
Right, but you're saying Big Ten culture. I'm a Big Ten fan. I've been watching Big Ten football for 30 years. Utah fits into Big Ten culture. Immaculate, you're an Iowa fan. How does Utah fit into Big Ten culture?
Yes. How?
There's very religious, conservative people that exist within the Big Ten and enjoy football foremost.
So let's say Immaculate had a question for Jason to follow up.
Yeah. And first off, let me say, good to chat with you, man. Seen you coming through a couple of times, and I know you've got a name for yourself in this, so I'll be as respectful as possible, because I think your opinion represents a lot of people with the same opinion. In fact, I think on this, I'm in the minority at this point in time. But I'll also say there's a lot going on right now that a lot of people would have said was impossible not that long ago. So with that in mind, let me say why I say there's a spot for Utah is because what I see is that there's going to be, for me, Moen's got a little bit different, 25 schools, 24 to 25 schools in these conferences before we're done. So when you say that there's better options than Utah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And many of those are going to get invited first. And they're going to get in there first. But there is still a position for Utah because it's not just going to be like 24 to 25 schools with no organization in there. We are going to go back to divisions once we have the autonomous vote consolidated to where we can actually get the votes passed. So whether you think 4 divisions, 6 divisions, or in my case, 5 divisions, part of the strategy going forward is filling those divisions and making good groupings in those divisions. And we, in my opinion, have a hole in one of these divisions, and I do believe Utah will probably end up filling that hole. So their market, well, that's a good point. I don't think it's going to be taken into that. What will be taken into that is Utah's history of doing whatever it takes to be successful, because the hole in division that I have in mind, they need a strong school to come in and do that. Utah's got AAU. Their research is growing. They're building brand new facilities for that there right now. So in all the ways that, in my opinion, really matter to the Big Ten, the Utah does fit in. Are there some religious folks there? Yeah. Are there some religious folks at Iowa? Yeah, there are in other places because it's the Midwest.
Right.
There's still quite a people there. So I don't want to go too far on that, but I just
can I say this real quick before anybody continues to go at me like I'm saying no religious person can get into the Big Ten? That's not. Look, guys, that's not what I'm saying, and I'm not saying you're a bunch of godless heathens out there in the Midwest either. Before anybody says that again. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. What I am telling you is that there is a very real division between schools and there has been. There is a reason why they want Notre Dame now. It's called money. They're worth a ton, both in viewership, and there's rivalries there. But Notre Dame hasn't wanted anything to do with the Big Ten, and for a very good reason. Michigan made it when they tried to get into the Big Ten before, because of the Catholic thing, they weren't allowed. It doesn't have anything to do with what I think or my opinion on anything like that. That's reality. Now, did they know that? Go ahead,
Jason. I was just gonna say, let me get this Tony Altamore. Bah ha 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 bum. That's a super chat. Thank you, Blake. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Jason.
No, I mean, and all I'm saying is that that's a reality. Now, do they need them? Yeah, and right now they're playing, for lack of chess or Risk. Even if anybody who's played the game of Risk, that you're trying to take over as much as you possibly can, they're the valuable piece. They are the most valuable piece out there, the most valuable plot of land. They have a huge. They're by themselves. They're going to probably pull $60 million a year on their next media deal if they stay independent. So no matter what, of course they want it. So does the SEC, by the way, right? And I mean, I would tell you that the Big 12 would love to have them as well. Do I think that there's a better fit? Yeah, I think that the Big 10 fits for that reason right there. What I'm telling you is that Utah is, first off, new to the Power 5. And the Power 5 we know is going away as we know it. But I'm saying they're new to the Power 5 anyway. They've never even been, until they didn't really have any other choice but to grab them up. They didn't and wouldn't in the Pac-12. And they wouldn't even.
I think what they're saying, Jason, is though that it's that word potential. Look, I think let's change the conversation here. I think you guys have all explained this pretty well, and I think we know stuff's coming, right?
Yeah, it's fine. We could disagree. I mean, I'm not saying we're right. We're not saying he's right or
and the anti-Catholic thing was 100+ years ago.
It wasn't 100+ years
Notre
ago.
Dame,
it was not, Mullen. Come on, buddy.
Okay.
Yost said that it's.
Yeah.
Let's not act like this was some recent thing.
Anyway.
It was recent enough that they are continuing to hold that grudge if you're Notre Dame, though. And that's what I'm not telling you
to use that as an excuse.
But Notre Dame's already a member of the
I've
Big
heard
Ten.
it recently on from people from Notre Dame saying, screw the Big Ten.
Why is their hockey team playing with us then?
Anyway, let's change the subject for a second, guys. Andrew Parchak, who's a subscriber, I think this is the key. Does the ACC make it to 2036 with their contract now that the Pac-12 is blown up?
Nope.
Anybody think
they
that
ever were going to?
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, who thinks that the ACC blows up in 2026?
Blows up? I wouldn't go with that terminology. I do believe that they're going to be going off into other conferences. 100%.
Okay.
It's going to be a slog.
Okay.
It's not
slog. Okay, maybe that's a better term. Okay.
There's a massive opportunity cost to waiting until these contracts end.
Right.
Everyone wants to be a part of what is coming for 2026. One of the big things coming, I'll say, is conference tournaments. I mean, people can agree with that or disagree with that all they want, but the money in those for all these conferences is quite a lot more than even what's in the postseason right now. They know that if they're in the ACC, they're not going to get nearly as good of a deal for one of those as they will if they're in the SEC or the Big Ten, and even the ones that end up getting transferred over to the Big 12 because that's what ESPN is doing. We've even heard that Fox and ESPN are pressuring the PAC to move. They're doing the same thing with the ACC. They'll make more once this consolidation happens by a lot. Like, it's not even close. Like, you'll be seeing even the Big 12 at this point in time when that happens will be over double what they're doing now. I mean, people can refute that. I'm going to present those numbers later. But if people want to think that that's crazy, once again, the idea of Colorado leaving the PAC was crazy, using quotes, a day ago. So yeah.
Let me interrupt you there, Immaculate. I think that's a very good point, because Justy Rowdy Dude gave us a super chat here, and he says Notre Dame football is tied to the ACC. I don't think anybody – we all know that, Rowdy Dude. None of us deny that. But they also have the opportunity they could leave if the ACC blows up, right? So just because they're there now doesn't mean they won't join the Big Ten. And what Jason's point is, he's hearing even today Notre Dame people talking about being independent still and not joining the Big Ten. None of us know. At the end of the day, we're talking about
My
what happens to
the Notre Dame freaking guy. So,
but the thing that I think matters is more what's going to happen tomorrow. What is going to happen tomorrow?
Notre Dame, I believe Notre Dame can get out tomorrow. I don't think that
but
they would
will
put that
they,
escalator.
Though?
Will they?
Will
That's
they?
a different story.
I don't think they
on what
will.
NBC offers them.
Right.
If NBC isn't willing to offer them enough, they'll stay.
Well, plus
but
they
I
have
don't believe that they're locked into the ACC till 2036.
I think that the ACC is going to be gone anyway, the way it is currently.
Right, but I just thought he was talking about the must-join clause that's in there for 2036.
Yeah, he might have been saying that.
I don't believe that holds up.
No, I don't either. I don't think anybody does. The thing that I want to bring up is right today, does Utah have a home that isn't the Big 12? I don't think so.
Not yet.
Today.
Not yet. No, there's no seat for him at the Big Ten today.
The short-term moves that are happen, in my opinion, are Oregon State will be next to come with Colorado, and then after that, you'll see probably Washington State and Arizona. Arizona is going to use the two teams leaving as their reason out, because there is, some contention within those organizations as far as going to the Big 12. So with two schools leaving, it's pretty much done on their deal. Any thought that they could get a deal is done. So it starts to go downhill from there.
So Ryan, you know the data. You know the data inside and out. Tell us what you think about the way these numbers have come out and what we're looking at on the near horizon.
You hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to point out a quick question. Or a quick point. The Oregon State number could be floated right now to actually push Utah to make a decision. It could be a leverage play. All I will say this to counter both Moen and Immaculate's point about Utah. Let's say that the Pac-12 has a mass exodus, and let's say that let's say that happens. If Utah is forced back down into the Mountain West or into a very watered down Pac-12 conference that basically looks like the Mountain West, I can tell you the transfer portal will swell pretty quickly with Utah players. And Whittingham will probably retire. And people need to think about that, because if Utah loses that P5 status for even a couple years, it'll be a death knell to their program. And I know that sounds terrible and people are going to hate on me for saying that, but that's a very real consideration that people need to think about. If there's not a seat at the table for them now, that's going to hurt them in the long run, because they won't be able to be competitive on the money curve. Because remember, if you've got people making 5-6 times as much as you'll be getting on the money curve, every year that goes by, the gap grows bigger. And the bigger that gap grows, the less talent you have and the less prominence your program will have.
Does anybody believe that the Pac-12 contract, as it is, say they lose 3 teams but stay together, what is the value for that contract?
It's going to go down. It's going to go down even more. Because
isn't it down to $15-16 million a team?
It could be. And the reason why I say that is, look, SMU does not bring you the Dallas market. Tulane does not bring you New Orleans. Rice doesn't bring you Houston. I mean, these are all small football brands, and they don't really move the needle on anything. And they're not going to, especially if you're looking at a subscriber type deal with Apple. I mean, it gets you inventory, but I mean, you're basically going to be screwing all those new expansion candidates for money. And yeah, you can do that, but you're also handicapping them in their ability to grow with programs. I mean, and if everybody knows that you're just there short term, I mean, who's going to really jump on that? I mean, nobody. I think San Diego State's realizing right now that they were basically played and they were going to be used. And I mean, that's pretty obvious to me. I mean, anyone with a half a brain, which I do question San Diego State with that, given the letter. It kind of reminds me of the Seinfeld letter, the plagiarized letter. But anyway, that's another one. But I think the issue with that is, look, if Washington and Oregon know that they're going to the Big Ten post 2026, and they're all aiming for, a short media deal. I mean, if they're going to make you come in at a minimal share and then use your money to subsidize them in the money gap, I mean, basically, you're not going to have the resources to catch up P5 wise. And second thing too is you still got to pay back that money to the Mountain West. And the third thing is when you do, guess what? You're back where you started, because Oregon and Washington are going to run out on you. I mean, that's just the reality.
Yeah. Let's sort of get on from that, I think. Mark Rookard has a comment. He's replying to Conundrum. He's saying, not sure the sun is coming out tomorrow for Washington State. You guys, 4. Tell me right. Yes, no. Is Washington State going to the Big 12?
Yes.
No.
Not right now.
If they don't, Washington's going nowhere.
Yeah.
They're not tied together, Immaculate.
There was plenty of state politicians who were coming out saying they were going to cause all kinds of hell.
But they didn't, is what I'm saying.
Not yet. They very easily could.
Yeah.
What, tomorrow? What, they could be orphans in 10 days.
Having lived in Seattle and having grown up there, partially, UW has by far in Olympia, they by far have the most political leverage. They will do what's good for them. And I think they're fine. I think I want to give some words of hope to a Wild Ute and Larry, Nathan.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I mean, Utah and that rivalry with BYU, and also just the competitive nature of Utah's program. I don't think. Look, we can say what we will, and we can say what we've heard. But right now, if Taylor Randall's on the phone right now, probably Mark Carlin's probably on the phone with Brett Yormark. I mean, if Utah calls back and does a mea culpa and says, hey, just kidding, guys, I don't think Brett Yormark or the Big 12 presidents are petty enough to turn away from that.
I think, but I don't think that's going to happen, though. Do you see that happening?
I do. I mean, it's too good of a brand. It's too good of a brand.
But that's not it. We're talking about personalities at this point, though.
Well, but still,
Taylor Randall and Mark Harlan have dug their heels in. They are better than BYU.
Well, I mean, the sweet thing though is if BYU is the reason why they got in, that would be a that would be a fun thing.
But that would make you happy. But that's not going to make Utah fans happy.
Oh,
I'm telling you. I don't think that happens.
The more miserable they are, the better. I mean, if they're
all right.
I mean,
okay.
but honestly, to be fair, though, look, I think the longer they have to wait, the more danger they're in. But I do think that they'll end up in the Big 12. I just think that, and Wild Ute and Larry, they're two classy guys. So I encourage everybody in the chat, if anyone's collecting receipts on Twitter or going after people on YouTube comments, just remember Larry and Wild Ute are really good, high-class people. They're really decent people who try to be objective and, try to be polite and fair. And just, I mean, there's some people you can rub it in their nose, but let's just, be civil to Larry and Wild Ute, because these guys, they're good fans, they're passionate fans. and they're guys. Even though they're my rivals, I respect them. I respect them a lot, and just be positive and upbeat. And I think just my last words on that is I think Utah's going to be in the Big 12.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Ryan. I know Immaculate's putting together some projections for and actually Moen is too, for the new fashion, what we might be looking for in the A3 future, possibly A4 if the ACC can find a way to stay together. So you're definitely a resource everybody should be looking at. Please follow Ryan Thomas on Twitter. And do you want to say anything else, Ryan, before I let you go?
No, you can let me go, but you got some great guests on your panel. Some really smart people, and I appreciate everyone. I just really think this is, the story that will be told, Nathan, at the end of the day over the past 2 years is kind of the crowdsourcing of ideas in college football and the discussion that's been made possible to Twitter and YouTube and shows like that.
Right.
Because I think that's the real special story about this, because this has allowed fans a way to connect in a way that they haven't been able to connect outside of message boards. And,
Right.
I just think this is a great venue. I encourage everybody to subscribe, come back, keep coming back, and share your ideas. And if people share ideas that you don't agree with, just be polite and civil and have a good discussion, because that's how we all learn. And thank you, everybody. And I'll sign off with that.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Hang loose and we'll talk soon.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Holy cow, so much stuff. So you guys did a lot of listening. I want to hear from Moen. I think you're the last one who hasn't said anything. You've digested a lot of stuff. We've been going at it for an hour. You've been reading Twitter. You've been hearing from probably a few people. What is your big picture right now? And when I say horizon, I'm talking very short, maybe 30 days.
30 days?
Yep.
I think Arizona's out of the Big 12 by Monday at the latest.
You mean out of the Pac-12?
I'm sorry, yes, out of the Pac-12 into the Big 12.
Okay.
By Monday at the very latest. I know they had mentioned they wanted to wait for the TV deal. There's no TV deal now. It's losing somebody like Colorado. While it's not a huge, loss for their own, we don't know how Sanders is going to do. But it's just a perception that this conference you call the truck stop conference has poached one of your schools.
Right.
And that perception is going to decrease the value of your brand. So I think Arizona goes out by Monday. I think Arizona State is going to have to make a difficult decision. And I don't know. Oregon State might leave tomorrow. I don't know, really. I know that it was floated out there that Washington was, but like I said, I think that was just smoke from Washington to maybe try and push the Big Ten's hand a little bit. But I could see the Big 12 having 3 new members by Monday of next week, if not all 4.
Okay. What do you think, Immaculate?
Yeah, I think all of that's entirely possible. I tend to lean that with Robbins and his connection with Stanford and things are going on there, that they won't be in the first 2. But I think that they want to go. And I think that Oregon State will go next, probably pretty quickly. Arizona, I think they've got everything in line. They could probably do it very quickly after that. As far as the 4th, people can think whatever they want about that. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think that overall, this isn't. I think a lot of people think that there is going to be a whole bunch of schools that just get left out and cut out, and a lot of pain and stress, and there's a lot of fear. I'm not of that. Yeah, I'm not of that opinion. Right? I don't think this is all about cutting out a bunch of schools, because when that happens, there's litigation fears, there's legal problems, there's just a lot to deal with. I think that the pro rata has stated that there's, it's covering pretty much for any A5 school. And I think it was at like 66%, but word that I've seen from everyone is that they were going to end up covering to help push this through. So, people can disagree on that, and that's great, and that's fine. I don't want to come off as I'm trying to tell people what's real and what's not. This is just my opinion. And so I think Washington State will be a part of this. When, how it happens, I don't know. Maybe they don't get a full cut. Maybe they have to take a half cut. I don't know. But I don't think that they're being left behind to wither on the vine, so to speak.
Okay.
And so I think it does, whether or not there would be a vote or not, make it easier for Washington to do what they want to do. I don't think they're going in the same direction, though.
Okay.
So,
we got a super chat from Jared Jones, who's an Ohio State guy. I know Moen knows him. He's saying both Moen and Immaculate. Any pod with Moen and Immaculate gets my money. Thank you so much for your super chat, Jared. I really appreciate it, and I always love seeing you on Greg's show. Keep up the good work. Let's see here. I really want to know what Jason thinks, because again, I like these other opinions. I like when I talk to you guys because we hear other things. We get in a bubble. All of us get in our own bubble. We're comfortable. We know what we're talking about. It's awesome to hear from other people, though, and that's why I think it's really important to have you guys and Jason here. So go ahead, Jason. What do you think? Where are we in a? Oh, sorry.
Could I ask
go
you
ahead.
something real quick? I don't know Jason all that well. Just to kind of get some context, where do you come from in this? Like, are you a fan of a particular conference?
No, I've been a journalist I was a college football writer, and I've been a journalist for about 20 years. So
awesome.
Covering the Big 12 a lot of the time,
so you've seen it from like firsthand there, because the Big 12 has been like ground zero.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and I would tell you that it to me, this has been a surprising thing, because if it wasn't for Brett Yormark and his leadership and ability to see kind of the tea leaves or through the tea leaves and what's going to really happen, I've said on my show a few minutes ago, and Bomber was on there, I think that he's been running laps around GK. He's just been running laps around this guy, and it's a shame for the PAC. Let me just say this once and for all: I am not one of the people that thinks that this is a good thing that the Pac-12 is going to end up breaking up, but I do believe it's going to break up, or they're going to have to do some kind of a merger that makes them not a Power 5 conference, because there's no Power 5 schools left to fill, and the ones that they have that are their biggest, I would say their biggest assets right now, Oregon, Washington, as far as from a football standpoint, they've got one foot out the door. So I've been feeling like this is something that's been coming for a long time. And it's a shame that somebody said in the chat a few minutes ago about all these lies coming from George Kliavkoff is cost these schools like Utah. Utah has wasted its loyalty on George Kliavkoff and his crap. And if it really does keep Utah from getting into the Big 12, right? And I'm going to tell you, until I see Utah get an invite to the Big 10, I'll never believe it. But if it wasted an opportunity for them to be a Big 12 team because of the way that the fans reacted to what Utah was saying because of Kliavkoff, I think that's a real shame. And that's the whole point of this whole thing. And when Jim Williams has talked about that, there's some people out there that are going to lose their credibility all the way around. And it's a shame that you've got guys like Canzano Wilner that are part of that group, right? Because these are guys that have been journalists for a lot longer than I have, but you've had people that have attacked Dennis Dodd and Thamel and the guys at The Athletic. And the guys, Marshawn and everybody. It's just been one after another. They're all wrong, but Wilner and Canzano were right, and George Kliavkoff. It's pretty crazy to me, man.
So you didn't tell us where everybody's going to be in the end of August.
I wish I did have a crystal ball. I do feel like I have a hard time believing that. Say what you will about Utah, I don't see them as a Big 10 fit whatsoever. I think they're number 10 at best, because they would wait around. They don't have to do anything right now. If you're the Big 10, you don't have to do anything, right? If it's not additive to your conference, and even though if they're competitive is great, but I don't know that you want competitive even. I don't think that I think you want somebody that's compelling. I don't know that in the Midwest that I mean, I'd ask you guys that are from there, is that super compelling for you to see Utah come and play Wisconsin or Rutgers or Nebraska even? I mean, do you care?
I mean, for me, it's not an emotional pick. For me, I've actually just come to that very, very recently. I'll be full blunt honest with you. I actually thought that we were going to take Colorado because just one of my divisions that I've set out, Colorado has history with Nebraska. I do have two other schools coming that Colorado also has history with, so I just thought it was a really good fit, academics wise, research wise, geographic wise. Having Sanders is a good story. Initially, he may not be there longer than 4 years or whatever, but now I think that Sanders is basically running the show at Colorado, and I think he definitely wants to be in Texas with you guys. And so I think Colorado is 100% Big 12, and that's that. So the spot that I actually had them in, I'm looking at that going, I think that might be a good spot for Utah. It's not like a, holy shit, I want Utah in this. Sorry for my language, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to come across like that, like it's like right away. And I don't even have a timeline for it. It's just at some point in time when we're strategically filling the last spots that we need, I just happen to think they fit then. Now, no, and I wouldn't fault anyone for thinking they don't fit now and that there's no way they get in. So I'm not trying to change anyone's mind on it. It's just putting
Let me get to the super chat immaculate from Miles Thurman. Thank you very much for the super chat first, Miles. He says the Pac-12 merely adopted conference realignment. The Big 12 was born to it, molded by it. I would say not only born to it, I think embraced it, owned it, as it were. What do you guys think about that comment? Because I think it's spot on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's something that because of poor leadership up until this point, it really, until Yormark got there, it was the head that was on the block was the Big 12. No two ways around it. Right. And they sat on their hands for far too long. You know, how long was it that you can remember back, I'm sure, Bomber, when they were vetted, when you know BYU was vetted and part of this and everybody thought that it was coming anytime now, right?
Right.
That was freaking almost 8 years ago, right?
It was
a long time ago. You know, and that's the whole thing is that all this time flies by and everything, but that, you know, when you start looking at it, it's not just about, you know, I saw in here that you're thinking about competitiveness, and that's not really everything that's involved in this. In the end, what ties Utah to LA? They don't care anything about Utah.
No, they don't.
You know, if you're talking about travel partners, what the hell ties them to anything in the Midwest? Nothing. You know where they're tied to? They're tied to Colorado because of the Four Corners. They're tied to BYU because they're 30, 40 miles apart. You know, and that rivalry, that's a real tie. That is a real tie. And it'll also drive more revenue than anything that you can tell me about the Big Ten.
I think the Holy War.
And that Utah fans want to be in the Big Ten. I have no idea why.
Well, I do. They want to be at the big table. They want to be Big Ten or SEC. I mean,
I understand,
but who doesn't?
My
point is everybody does.
Right. But the thing is that they're fighting against. It seems to me like as much as you and Wild Ute want to see this happen with the Big 12,
right?
I think you're in the minority when it comes to that. They don't want anything to do with BYU.
You know, we had an interview with Tim Fitzgerald. Do you guys know him? He's a fantastic Kansas State guy.
I think he's great.
He knows everything about the Big 8, Big 12, very knowledgeable. And he said months and months ago when Wild Ute and I got going that he thought he talked to somebody at the Big 12 offices that told him Utah had done so much damage in the previous 8 months. This was May, I think, that unless something changed in the near future, they would not get an invite. Brought him on the show, had a conversation. I thought maybe I'd turned him around on it so he might be able to sell the idea. And later he repeated the same thing. Utah did a lot of damage to themselves and their perception by how they reacted after USC and UCLA left. The reason is because they want USC to be their rival and not BYU. And by making that identification, their identity was to have USC be their rival. That brings us to today.
And if you want to talk crazy, I'll talk crazy, and I mean this in a good way. We're talking about the Big 12. The Big 12 was parceled out to be completely divided up between the other conferences at one point in time. This is real. Like, people think this is opinion. No, this is real. Right. There was certain schools going to certain conferences. It was supposed to happen. Once again, the Pac-12 effed that up. They didn't like who they were parceled out to get, so they tried to jump the gun and get Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State. This is going way back. You remember this, I'm pretty sure, Jason. I mean, this was extremely public, and afterwards, the AG of Texas came out and said exactly why they decided not to go west. Colorado tried to jump that. That's why they went to the PAC in the first place, because of all that public talk. And then the moment they did that, the rug was pulled out from underneath them. So the fact that the Big 12 has gone from that to a point where now I'm saying I am more interested in the Big 12 now than I have ever been in my entire life.
Right.
I actually think that losing Texas and Oklahoma for the long-term health of the conference is the best thing that's ever happened.
And I think it's good for Oklahoma and Texas too.
I mean, you can disagree. I get it. Value-wise, but in terms of look at where you have gone since that was decided with your new commissioner, everything he's now able to push, how much of that would Texas have fought? How much would they push back on him?
Well, just like USC did.
Yeah.
Right. In 2020, they're the same.
I'm not disagreeing with that part of it at all.
And so I'm not talking like
a pain in the ass, no doubt.
Like the idea of losing Texas and Oklahoma and being better off. That's a crazy comment, right? Like most people look at it going, that's ridiculous, but yet it's not, because now, like, that entire conference is now saying, Yormark, just take us. Where are we going? Take us. That would have never happened with Texas there. Maybe with Oklahoma, but not with Texas. So I like this Big 12. I don't care that they don't have a major brand. I'm using air quotes here. And I do think that Utah probably would fit better with them. And it's kind of sad to see that it's not happening if it doesn't happen, because I like them there. I like them with BYU. I want to see that rivalry happen. But I'm not making any decisions.
Than anything we're talking about in the Big Ten.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I'm not sitting there going, we want Utah. Yay. It's just
so. Let me interrupt you here. This super chat from Andrew Barchak, who again is a subscriber, so he's given me his money twice. Thank you so much, Andrew. And if you're new to the show, please subscribe, follow. When I take away this comment, follow these guys on Twitter. You guys would have known about all this Colorado stuff if you would have been following us and hadn't been from the last 3 months. We knew this was coming. You just had to follow the tea leaves. If you want your comment to be read, please do a super chat. I'm not going to get to regular comments. I apologize. Or you can subscribe. So Andrew Parchak says, and this is for Moen, does the Big 12 stop at 4 PAC schools? Does this start the dominoes for the ACC? Do other desired Pac-12 schools wait to find out?
They'll stop at 4 for the short term. Do they go back and pick up what's left? I don't know.
Right.
The ACC, does this start the dominoes for them? Again, I think that falls to Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame has to make their decision for Christ at this point.
Right.
Do the other desired Pac-12 schools wait to find out? They don't really have much of a choice. If they're not extended an invite by the Big 12, and as far as that goes, I mean, if Utah is extended an invite by the Big 12, they should absolutely take it.
Right.
100%.
But I don't think we can eliminate candidates. I mean, USC and UCLA are going to need some travel partners out there.
Right.
So I understand that they're not a great brand. They're not a huge brand. They're not in a big market. But we can't leave USC and UCLA on an island. I think we're moving towards that A3 we've discussed.
Right, I do too.
You have to have a Western division for the Big Ten.
Right.
And I think we can all agree that Oregon and Washington are in there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Those are the remaining 2 big brands.
This is the question.
That's going to leave a 5th slot. So who is that 5th slot out there?
ASU.
I have ASU.
I could make an argument that ASU is twice as valuable, 3 times as valuable as Utah is.
But you're saying that ASU won't go to the Big 12 with Arizona.
No.
I didn't say that at all. I didn't actually say anything about ASU
So
tonight.
you think the Big 10 would then poach the Big 12?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think
Okay,
they have any reservation from stealing from the Pac-12 or Big 12
See,
today.
yeah, but see, when you get into the A3, I think you want to have that cooperation. I don't think you want to have as much bad blood. So I don't see people poaching when we get there. But yeah, ASU would be a stronger candidate than Utah in that scenario. But in my scenario, I have Arizona State making it to the Big 12.
I think we just disagree on the solution.
I wouldn't be surprised about any of it. Like Hank says in the chat, it's eat or be eaten season right now.
Yeah.
Living in Scottsdale right here, I could tell you it's so full of Big Ten people here.
Right.
And for Big Ten, having lived up there and living here, you're talking at the end of the season. I mean, it's not as bad a weather as people think, but it's bad. And there are a ton of people, like people with money, who live down here with second homes, and they come down here sometimes early November, stay for a little while, they go back home for Christmas, and then they come back.
Right.
Now if they're down here at that time and their school, their alma mater, their team is playing down here at ASU, they're going to that game.
Right.
Big Ten holds a lot of the meetings here in Scottsdale. It is... It's almost more of a Big Ten town than it's an ASU and PAC town. Like, honest to God.
So let me ask you, Immaculate. Then because you said you had ASU going to the Big 12. Now
no,
you say
I don't. I said I have Arizona. Sorry.
Oh, I heard ASU. Okay, so yeah, I think to answer this question and get it to bottom line it, who here thinks ASU is worth less than Utah? All right, there's your answer. All right, let's get to
the Arizona State's a better candidate.
Absolutely.
The interesting question is, if we get to 24, do you take Cal or do you take Utah if you're the Big Ten?
I think you take Cal.
No,
you do. You think you take Cal?
I do. It's all that education stuff and all that other. I think the Big Ten really, really cares. Utah's growing, but they can't touch. We did the numbers.
They've been tied together for a long
They
time.
cannot touch Cal.
Right.
Anyway, this is a great conversation because we work through these problems together, right? I think some of this common sense stuff needs to start ruling, though. The dream scenarios are great, but let's talk real nuts and bolts.
I look at Cal as Stanford's little brother and whatever Stanford is going to do, because Stanford needs a travel partner. And when I look at Stanford, I look at Ivy League, and I think that if you look at the lawsuit that's going on with Brown right now and with all the other Ivy League, we've had this conversation, the Ivy League schools that are part of that, I think they're going to come to the conclusion that they're going to have to leave that tradition in the past. And once they have to have one or two sports that actually make money for their new athletic scholarships that they have to give out, they're going to have to move up. And when they do, I think Stanford is going to be with them along with some other schools.
I do think Stanford does that. I don't think Cal qualifies.
No, they don't normally, but the problem is that Stanford's so far over there, they're going to need some other schools. And there's a whole slew of private universities over in California that cost just as much to go to as Ivy League schools.
I know.
But they don't have much of any type of sports programs.
West Coast Conference, they can take BYU spot. We don't have to dwell on this. I think this
I'm
is
just saying
big picture.
that's what I think's going on with Stanford and why you don't hear crap from them, because they're going somewhere else.
Once Stanford goes somewhere, Cal's cut loose. I think they're going to the Big Ten when that happens. All right. Anyways, Adam Vulture's got a super chat here. He says Utah is not a good culture fit. Jason's favorite word, culture. They hate the Big 12. Executives don't want them. We've talked about that. Do you guys want to say anything more about that?
No.
Okay.
I don't exist in the mind of a Utah fan, so I can't.
Right. It's tough. Without Ute here or Larry here. Larry joined at the very beginning, but I didn't get a chance to tell him stick around, and he took off. Anyway, Lemon Lime with another comment. He says, when OU and Texas leave, who will be the top dog? That's a great question for all of you.
Jason first. He's the man over there.
And let's not talk football this year. Let's project. Let's be creative, and let's project to 2026.
Right now, Well, and when you throw CU in there, and it would depend on how long you see Coach Prime hang around, but he's the real deal. I believe that they're going to take a step forward, but right now, I think moving forward is Texas Tech. Right now, it's Texas Tech. They've got the best coach. They're forward thinking in that, and I really think that when you see what they're doing recruiting wise, even when Mike Leach was doing the things that he was doing, he was not recruiting at the level that Joey McGuire is. And when you've been the president of the Texas High School Coaches Association for as long as he was, you've won state championships. He's able to get into living rooms that not everybody would, right? When you don't have to worry, I think the biggest worry for Texas Tech has to be, can you keep him? But if they can, I think the Tech is. I think they're maybe a year away, but I think they're going to step to the forefront.
Okay.
I like that. I would love to see it because Texas Tech has been behind Texas and Texas A&M for so long, and then last year you have TCU coming out of nowhere to take it. That TCU to me exemplifies what the Big 12 is going forward. Is that I don't even care what people think. I think they're there. But what I mean is, like, I don't think anyone is going to own that conference. I think it could be anyone in any given year. Maybe not anyone, but it could be a whole bunch of different schools, and it's just going to come down to the chaos of college football. And I think that could probably be the most competitive, maybe not with the absolute best, but the most competitive across the board of any conference. And that's what I'm looking forward to. That's why I like this Big 12.
I've been going on weekly with the Voice of College Football to talk a lot of OU and Big 12 stuff. And that's what he says a lot. I agree with them. I think that when you saw what it was last year, there wasn't really a team in the league that couldn't beat another team in the league, right? What Sonny did at TCU last year was amazing. But then you got to look at Chris Klieman, and I mean, there's a lot of coaches that a lot of people don't really know a ton about. Lance Leipold, I mean, the best coach maybe nobody knows, aside from I've always thought that was Coach Whittingham, but I think everybody knows him now. And then you start looking at, Chris Klieman, the guy has done nothing but just figure it out. He's beaten Oklahoma 3 out of 4. 3 out of the last 4 times they played. He won as great as TCU played throughout the season. I think they kind of caught a few breaks here and there. I do think that they're going to recruit pretty well because Sonny does a great job. I think they have a hiccup this year, but to me, it's Tech. And then I would definitely, you cannot discount Kansas State. I think UCF is probably at least a couple of years away, if not more. And I think they're going to have to, I think they've painted a huge target on their back. UCF has. So, but they got fertile recruiting grounds. They're going to have to recruit better. But I think that they have an opportunity to be good because they are in Florida. That being said, and Houston, I think they need a new coach. But if they can do that, they've got fertile recruiting grounds and an opportunity as well. Right now, the leader to me is Tech, and then it would be K-State, TCU, and then of the new schools, I like BYU the most as far as like making noise early, But if Colorado's coming, then you better believe that they're going to make noise right there. Coos.
I brought in Coos. I saw him loitering over there in the comment section, so I sent him an invite. Hey, Justin, it's been a minute. I appreciate you joining. Justin was actually the first show I ever got on. I didn't know what I was doing. I was chasing my tail trying to build something, and it was tough there at the beginning, but we've settled down, and I think we got a good thing going here, Justin. What are you thinking tonight?
Well, as a West Virginia fan, the first thing that came to mind, or not come to mind, but that I saw somebody post on Twitter, actually, this is the first time in the history of West Virginia University that they have actually been in a conference that added a power team instead of losing.
Right.
So you guys have had quite the draw, man. Jeez.
We had, and I mean, we went from being an independent. I think we were in the Southern Conference at one time. Then we went independent. Then we were in the Big East for years. Then it fell apart. So we obviously ended up in the Big 12. So it's like, and then we thought it was going to fall apart. We've been turned down by the SEC. We've been turned down by the ACC. So it's like we finally have a home, and we're finally in a home that might actually be on a solid foundation for once. It's kind of nice.
It was funny back in 2012. You guys were the center of the realignment world,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people talk garbage and trash, and people like MH Fuhrer and all these guys now kind of get joked about, but they actually knew stuff then. And
MH Fur, don't criticize him. He's one of my guys.
I like him, dude. I've liked him
him
for a long time.
Okay,
and
I just want to
what
be
people
clear.
don't get is that how much information was going through that conference, and
Right.
I kind of learned about WVU back then and the culture and how we call it a leaky ship. Because there's no like real high elitism there, and it's like this tight culture. And so, I mean, that's how Oliver Luck came to be who he was with the NCAA with his big job there. Was so much went through there, and I would love to hear from Coos about that at some point in time about what he saw. But WVU fascinates me in that regard.
Yeah, with what's specific. I mean, I don't want to take over the show here. Nathan, you want me to answer that question?
Yeah, please. Yeah, this is a panel. Go ahead.
As far what specifically are you asking in regards to that?
Just what it was like to be there at that time, and that's carried on to now.
During the 2011 period,
2011, 2012. Yep. And
yeah,
then how
it was. I mean, it was a scary time because, I mean, we could see the Big East. I mean, obviously, we lost our rivals, which hurt. I mean, we lost Pitt. First we lost Virginia Tech and Miami. Virginia Tech hurt worse because they were one of our biggest rivals. Then we lose Pitt. And no offense, but Cincinnati was not a rival to us at the time. UConn wasn't really a rival. Even though I do think adding UConn to the Big 12 was a good idea, but that's a whole other conversation. So it just the Big East was a good conference, but it wasn't the same once all those other schools left. But it was still, at the time, it was a BCS conference. So we felt like we were still, even though we were kind of disrespected, we were still part of the quote unquote, we still had a seat at the quote unquote big boy table, right? And then when we saw that falling apart, we basically thought we were going to end up in the AAC or, something similar. So to land in the Big 12, man, it was an exciting time at West Virginia. To know we was going to get to play Oklahoma every year, to know we were going to get to play Texas every year. To be frank, I didn't know a whole lot about the other schools in that conference. The Kansas States, the Texas. I mean, I know who they were, but I didn't follow them that closely. But Texas and Oklahoma, that was exciting. Now that we've been in the league for over a decade, I've gotten to know these other fan bases, gotten to know these other teams, and they are great, man. They're, and we fit in culturally probably better with the Big 12 than any conference in the country, with the exception maybe of the SEC. But we're right at home culturally in the Big 12. It's just the geographic fit has always been an issue because of the travel, obviously. So bringing in some more Eastern teams is a huge benefit for us. I mean, heck, I saw thing come out the other day, the mileage that each Big 12 team was going to have to travel, and we were actually third on the list instead of first.
It was crazy. BYU was way up there. So
UCF was at 14,000 miles, man.
They were the most, yes.
And then BYU was at like 12,000, and I think we were around 10,000. So it was like, welcome to the Big 12, BYU and UCF.
Thanks, Justin. It's been quite the ride. You bring up some good points though. You're talking about growing pains and the feelings about joining from conference to conference. What's happened tonight is something unique. We're having a conference member that left one conference, went to another, was dissatisfied, and came back all as a P5 school.
Right.
It's never happened before.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing today, I think, is really, and you I'm not sure if you've seen our shorts, Justin, but we've done some shorts on what this A3 is going to look like. 3 super conferences of 24 or 25 teams. And you would love it because West Virginia is in a wing with nothing but Eastern schools.
Yeah.
So it's a really, I think we started that today. I think Colorado broke the ice, and now we're on a precipitous fall. Moen hasn't said anything for a minute. Do you have any questions, Moen, for Justin, who's here?
No, I would say, in my new A3 proposal, you've got West Virginia, the they would have a divisional rivalry with Virginia Tech, and they'd have a cross-divisional rivalry with Pitt. So, and I think getting that Northeast corridor, you're adding some. In my model, you're adding Syracuse and UConn and getting more. Although the West Virginia division, I believe I did switch it up to include Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Duke, and UCF, just because UCF and Iowa State just mess all of that up for me. Those schools just kind of. But yeah, I mean, I think that's where we're heading, and I think that's what that'll help reduce some of that travel concerns for West Virginia and University of Cincinnati, obviously, and UCF.
Yeah, I would like it. I mean, it'd be great. I'm not one of these West Virginia fans that longs to be in the ACC. What I do long for is to play our rivals every year and be in the same. And yes, we are playing Pitt again on the schedule, but it's not every single year. There are breaks in there. And when you're not in the same conference, it's still great to play them, but when you're being in the same conference together makes it even more special, because not only is it a rivalry game, there's also conference implications on the line, right? So it would be cool to have those guys come into the Big 12 at some point. Louisville was becoming a rival for us during the Big East days. So to get Louisville, Pitt, Virginia Tech in the league, and hey, for me personally, for selfish reasons, I'd like to get some of the Carolina schools, because I live in the southern part of West Virginia. I can actually get to North Carolina quicker than I can get to Morgantown. So I'd love to have Wake Forest in the conference. Or
I've got them in there too. So.
NC State, just for selfish reasons, because I can make those road trips pretty easily. So
we'll have to have you on the show, and we can go into it in deep dive, Justin.
Absolutely, man.
I think you'd really like to see that, and we'll have to set that up. Well, I got a super chat here. Jason wants to answer.
Yeah, so I would say the reason that he will keep it, and this is the only reason, because he shouldn't. I've said already he's the worst. The only reason is because nobody else wants the job, and they're not going to just, who's going to want to have this dumped into their lap? That's the only way that he keeps that job past Monday.
So the question is, how does George Kliavkov keep his job past weekend? I have a hard time seeing him staying there past Monday. So does he have a job on Monday? I think it's an over-exaggeration to say he loses his job by Monday. But
yeah, I don't think that he can, because of the fact who's going to take over this train wreck. You know what I mean? And it is a train wreck.
Bob Robbins, maybe.
Yeah, who are they going to hire?
Yeah.
Hey,
but
can I ask
be the next one out? Isn't he going to be the next one out with Arizona? I mean, Arizona's got to be leaving, right?
Yeah.
How much are these schools going to pay him to? You have to fire him with cause. I mean, he's got a contract. I mean, they already owe Comcast millions of dollars. Do they want to add George Kliavkov's golden parachute to that? I mean,
yeah, GK's lawyers could easily argue that this problem was started well before he was there, and that it's not actually his fault.
I think he's been waiting for somebody to break the ice, and he wants to blame Colorado, and he's no longer the problem. That's what I think this is. This is a PR move by him saying, hey, I didn't blow up our conference. I was doing everything you guys asked me to. Blame Colorado. Blame Arizona. Blame
That's why
whoever.
He's been so quiet all this time. That's a great point. I think that's a great point.
I think that's what he's been waiting for. He's literally, and I didn't come up with that. I read that on Twitter, but I think that's exactly what he's done. He's been waiting this whole time, sitting back, waiting for somebody else to blame.
Yeah, there's just not much that he can really do for them. I mean, who in that position could do such a better job? Everyone's like, oh, he's terrible, fire him. Like, and hire who? Who's standing in line for that job?
Right.
It was the mistakes he made early that really hurt him the most. And I think that he's just been like Bomber said, kicking the can down the road, just waiting for somebody to say, screw it, now I can blame it on Colorado, or now I can blame it on the Big 12, which he's done a lot of, or now I can blame it on ESPN or the Big 10. We don't want blood on our hands. It's all over your hands. It's been all over your hands.
Absolutely is.
But the longer they wait it out, the more they think people are going to forget, and the more you hear about from knuckleheads like who we're talking about in the chat. So yeah.
Mark M has a chat here. I'm a Louisville fan and hoping we join the Big 12 down the road once the ACC gets rated. I believe in our A3 that happens, right?
Yes, Louisville is in the Big 12.
That's what I thought. All right. Let me see if I get to some of these other comments. You guys have been so patient. You guys can talk while I'm looking for a comment if you want.
You had something, Coos?
I did. I have a question for the panel. I'd like to get your all's thoughts, and you guys may have already talked about this before I jumped on, but before I was listening. Jim Williams put out a tweet earlier tonight that he's hearing from his sources at UConn that they will be joining the Big 12 this week as well. Did you guys see that? Number one. And two, what I would like to hear your individual opinions. I personally, as a West Virginia fan, would love to see UConn in the Big 12 as long as the networks are willing to pay, which I'm assuming they are, or they probably wouldn't have gotten voted in. Do you think UConn's a good ad for the Big 12? Jason?
Be honest. Be honest.
I think, honestly, I don't think it's the best ad right now. I think that if you're not going to get all four corner schools, which I mean, I don't know at this point what's going to happen on that. You hear so much. I think that we have continually thought that one or maybe two would tilt the other two. And I still kind of feel that way. But if it's true what we're hearing about Yormark not really considering Utah anymore, maybe, and only because of the basketball thing. But I also think that UConn, yeah, they can win a national championship in basketball every 10 years, and then you go another 5 or 10 years before they're really relevant again. And their football program's awful. I just don't see where it's a super great ad. I think if we're just going to, if we're just going to go knee-jerk reaction, they just won the national title, sure. And if you really do feel like you have to build this league into dominant basketball, okay. The thing is do a lot of people watch UConn men's basketball? I mean, do they? I guess I haven't considered it a whole lot. But my feeling is that I would rather see Gonzaga if I'm a Big 12 fan. I just got to be honest with you.
No,
now, from your
disagree.
perspective at West Virginia, I can see that, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's why I wanted the opinion of someone else that's not, sitting here only 500 miles away. And 500 miles is still a long way.
I get, man.
500 miles is still a long way, but they would still be closer than everybody else in the league except Cincinnati.
Listen to Moen here, Coos.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're a good ad. They're just not a good ad right now.
Okay.
I think later on, the more of the expansion, the more of the consolidation takes part. I think you're going to have that Northeast corridor. I see a lot of schools, the Pitt, Syracuse, UConn. The Big 12 is going to have a Northeast corridor division. So
I do believe that makes sense.
Then would be the time.
Here's your 12, Moen. Talk us through this.
Yeah, I love this. Is great.
Well,
I haven't seen this yet.
This is the latest iteration, but yeah,
we've been working on this.
If Arizona State moves,
can I preface this really quick, Moen? I just want to tell everybody, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, give us the likes and thumbs up and comments and subscribe and super chats. That's all well and good. But this right here is part of a project that we've been working on as a team. And a lot of people have ownership of it, but it was Moen's idea, given some data by other people, and then we sort of formulated into a whole presentation. Tonight, we're only talking about the Big 12, and this is something that came out of his head. And he's cleaned it up. This looks a lot better.
Yeah, I did this one on my computer, not my phone. So, like I said, Iowa State and UCF are kind of floaters out there. There's really not a great spot to put them. So your Mid-Atlantic is where you're going to find West Virginia. They're going to be in a conference with Duke, Louisville, UCF, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. Just to the north of them, you're going to have that Northeast corridor with Boston College, Cincinnati, Pitt, Syracuse, UConn, Iowa State, because Iowa State's just out there. And then you can have a cross-division protected rivalry between Pitt and West Virginia. And
would they get to play every year?
Yes. It'd be protected. You would play every year.
Okay.
And then you would have a conference semifinal at the end for your 10th game, and then a conference championship game. But this way you get a great basketball conference without having to sacrifice too much on the football side. You don't have to have any basketball only members in this model.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the mountain's going to change if Arizona State screws me up here, but that's all right. We can drop off Washington State or something like that. But
yeah, I would go. As a West Virginia fan, I would love this if this actually pans out. But what kind of time frame, in your opinion, would we see? It's 2036. Is it when do you think this happens?
Again, this all comes down to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
If Notre Dame pulls a plug on the ACC, you could see this as early as 2030.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't happen, you're going to have to wait a little while longer.
Right. Yeah, there's not a team on there that. Well, there's UConn. I see UConn on there actually. Never mind.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Immaculate, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, on the original question on UConn, I guess I'm kind of in similar opinion of these guys, that I see UConn as like the sixth man, right? They know that they want them in the future. One, as Patrick said in chat, I always look at ESPN having their campus in Connecticut, getting tax breaks and whatnot, that they're going to push for UConn eventually to be in a power conference. So I do think that they're going to get the full pay from them. But, and they do play football. They don't play great football, but they can play football, so they can fill a spot for a while. I think that they're part of the basketball plan. As far as people watching it, I don't know. I'm learning as we go, just from like listening to your Mark talk to Joel Klatt about all that he sees in basketball. It's interesting to talk about the Generation Zoomers and how much more they like basketball. That was new to me. Okay, that's interesting if that's true. So in that regard, I think Connecticut, as part of that Northeastern basketball branding, it makes sense to me. Only reason why I thought that they might join sooner rather than later is if they need them to fill a spot. Say they can only get 3 schools, they need a 4th. Come on in for now. But yeah, I don't really see that till down the road personally.
Gotcha.
There's a perception. Let me say this really quick, Jason. There's a perception problem with UConn that is real. We've broken it down with the numbers. We went back and looked at the data that they bring in media value, and it's extremely low for football. So it just depends where your mark's at and where his voting is at. If it's to fill a 4th spot, I think there's enough cover there. Moen might disagree, but if they're the 4th school, I could see them coming in. I can't see them coming in as the 2nd school.
Here's I have a theory, and this is a total theory, but this is all based on what I heard West Virginia's athletic director, Ren Baker, do an interview a few weeks ago with some West Virginia media guys, and they asked him about expansion, and he was very open and honest. He said, look, in these meetings, I have been very adamant and very honest that if we're going to add more teams from the West, then you better accommodate us in our travel, because we have – this is obviously before we've added the 4 schools, right? But he said we pay much more in travel expenses than anybody else in the league. It puts us at a disadvantage. So if you're going to add teams from the West, then you need to do things to help us out, and which they can do that through scheduling and things like that. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, has he made a deal and said, okay, if you guys want to bring in Colorado, then you need to throw us a bone. If you want my vote, then you give us somebody that's closer to us as well to help us scheduling. Maybe it was a quid pro quo thing. Like we'll vote for you, Colorado, to come in.
Right.
But you guys have to vote for UConn to come in as well. That's a total theory. It's a total. I'm putting my gold and blue dude sunglasses on. I'm in the speculation
That's what I
zone.
wanted to talk about. What do you think Golden Blue Dude would be thinking right now?
Dude, he would be in absolute heaven right now.
He is in heaven. He's already in heaven.
He is, but
I mean, he would be enjoying this, eating it up.
Yeah. Great point. That was a bad analogy, Nathan, but yeah. So you're
no,
right.
it's not a bad. No, I think it's brilliant. Actually, he is in heaven, and I think we all tip our hats to him.
Yeah, I actually had a moment of silence for him because of one of my viewers' requests tonight during my show. But
right,
he would be loving this, man. Absolutely loving this.
Well, we are almost 2 hours. It is past midnight. You guys have been awesome. Oh, we got a new member in the house. Let's see here. Rick Banovich is a new member. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate your subscription. Stick with us. Thanks, Jason. I need a sounder. Do you have a sounder, Coos?
I do not, man. I don't even know what a sounder is.
It's just a sound thing you add to anyway. I need to get something, but thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Rick, thanks for joining. And if you're a new subscriber to the show or new to the show, please subscribe. Give us a follow, thumbs up, and I'm going to take this comment away. Thank you so much for being a new member, Rick. I really appreciate it. Let me get you off there. These are all these guys' contact information on Twitter. Please find them. Find their shows. Coos has Coos Corner. Jason Watkins has Hall of Fame College Football. Moen and Immaculate are free agents, but they're my free agents. And I really want to thank you guys for taking part of this today. This is an amazing. It's been a great 7-8 hours for all of us. And let's just see what happens in the next 48, 72 hours. I think it's going to get even livelier. We all have shows coming up. Don't need to go through all of them, but please subscribe to these guys' channels and go and watch their shows when they're on. You guys want to say anything else before we sign off?
One little thing, if I could.
Sure.
To both these guys, Jason, Coos, I really hope to see you guys around here more often. I think me and Jason, we got off to a little rough start, but I totally understood, but I really do appreciate everything you're saying, man. I'd like to see you come around more. Coos, I'm gonna full on for it. I've been mentioning your name around here for a little while, saying we got to get Coos over here. So
right, yeah.
Thank you, man.
Because in my opinion, there's no realignment panel that's full if you don't have a West Virginia guy. So
there you go. That works for me.
My opinion, man. I'm telling you, I got a lot of respect for you guys. So
thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've been through it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Immaculate, for the kind words. Thank you, Jason. You know, he and I have worked together a few times. Thank you, Nathan, for having me on.
Man.
Moen Vision. I always enjoy your call-ins to Greg Plugar's show. You're always very insightful, very thoughtful. I know you and I have had a few disagreements on Twitter on some political issues, but that doesn't mean I don't respect you. And I'm always the type of person that can respect people regardless of political differences, as long as it doesn't get personal and mean, obviously. But so I just wanted to throw that out there. But thank you for all your input. And, subscribe to Jason's show. Subscribe to Big 12 Mafia here if you haven't yet. And I really enjoy what you're doing with Wild Ute too. Wild Ute is top notch, man.
He is.
He's one of the Utah fans I actually like.
Right.
He's extremely nice, extremely pleasant, extremely respectful, and I dig it.
It took me a while to find him, Justin. To be honest, I went through a few Utah people, and he was the winner.
And Pac-12 Pilgrim is okay.
Larry, absolutely.
Yeah, I have no issue. I call him Pac-12 Pilgrim. That's the name of his new show. But
it is, yeah.
I have no issue with him either. He's always been very respectful to me. So
he was going to get on. I could right before the show started. I was telling everybody that might be a minute before I could have him join. He joined right after that, so I didn't get a chance to tell him that. So hopefully we'll catch up with him, and he comes on my show all the time.
Yeah.
All right, everybody else, thank you so much. You guys stick around after the sign off. I just want to say hey to you guys for 2 minutes after the show's over.
Yeah.
Everybody else,
I just wanted to say thank you for having me on there. Thanks for having me on, Bomber, and Coos. Always good to see you, buddy, and appreciate you as well. Moen and Immaculate, thanks a lot for the talk. And hey, look, guys, we're all just out here trying to take care of it. But I think everybody really should be thankful for Bomber and the Wild Ute, especially because these guys are bringing you constant, really good information. It's not slanted towards whatever they want or anything like that. They're bringing out real information. And in this time of realignment, you get so few people that are doing that right now, right? So I just wanted to thank you, Bomber, for having me on the show and for the work that you guys have put out over the last month or two.
Thank you so much, Jason. I mean, you and Justin are two of the mentors that got me going, and I can't tell you how valuable I think that is. And this has just been awesome, and I can't wait for what's coming. Right? I think what's coming is even bigger. By the way, Jason, I didn't mean to cut you off. I hadn't realized that you hadn't said anything. I apologize.
And then there's Norman. He just wanted to say hello, but he's asleep right now. So there's the Norman man.
Jason's new dog. He's got a replacement dog. All right, everybody else, have a great night. We'll sign off and peace out.